I mean, it's okay. It's okay. I'll give you credit. I can think of a lot of reasons why you would vote if you had chorizo.
Yeah, but I mean chorizo, though. I mean, if there was a chorizo tax...
What if there was a candidate who's going to, put somebody in the FDA who would ban it?
What, and take away my chorizo? Like they're taking away my guns?
Yeah.
For Thursday, February 18th, 2016, this is All Downhill. This episode, Gun Control Part 2, Smart Guns.
So yeah, smart guns. This is one that I brought up, and I thought this was amazingly interesting because I knew that these things existed in some way or another.
See, I vaguely knew about it, but I hadn't given very much thought to it until you brought this up.
Yeah, and that's the same way. And we all know, smart guns, James Bond is the big one that comes to mind, where, only he can shoot it. Yeah, or, like we were talking about earlier, Shoot 'em Up with Paul Giamatti, the gun that has his fingerprints on it, and only he can shoot.
Sure. Because, and the reason this is all relevant, of course, is that Obama brought up in his speech this, or at the very least, he's called for more federal investigation into smart gun technology, and there's been a lot of discussion of this idea of smarter guns as a measure of gun safety.
Yeah, and he's basically saying that, with more technology, we can control, who gets a hold of guns, and if we have more safety technology, kids won't accidentally get into their into their parents' gun closets and accidentally shoot themselves, stuff like that, or they can't steal a gun from a parent and shoot people
before we
in
get
schools.
very deeply into it, I want to be clear on one thing, in case anybody misinterprets anything else I say. I am all for more safety measures on basically everything, assuming the safety measures do not make a thing useless.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Because it would be a safety measure to make all cars be forced to drive at no speed greater than 15 miles an hour, but it would remove the point of a car.
Yeah, basically
I'm all for safety measures that do not take the point out of something.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm on the same page with you right there. But so basically what this is, and I didn't know how contentious this was. I had
no idea. I didn't realize there was this much contention. I didn't realize this many gun manufacturers and stuff were involved with smart gun technology, investigating it at points.
Yeah, and we've got a couple articles attached here that are going to be sourced, and one of them it's about how the technology's here, it's safe, it works, and another is about how both sides hate smart guns for one reason or another, and one of the reasons is because it doesn't work, which I find bizarre.
It was CBS, I believe, right?
CBS.
Mentions that a lot of law enforcement has not adapted smart gun technology, not because of the expense, so that might be a part of it,
but because of the functionality.
Because they're worried about its functionality.
Exactly what you said. It takes away, it's a safety regulation that might make it functionally useless at some point or another.
Yeah.
So basically
which, I mean, in all fairness, but before we really get into how smart gun technology works and the rest of this, it is something worth considering at all times, no matter how interesting anything we're about to talk about or anything you read in the sources sounds. Always remember, adding an additional step to anything is an additional spot that can break. That's just a fact. You can't avoid that.
And the thing is with this, so basically how this works, and the one that we're sourcing in the article, some work on biometrics, but they're not the ones that these were focusing on, thumbprint readers, which again have their own problems, It's
mentioned if you're wearing gloves, if you're a cop out in the cold, you're going to be wearing a glove. The last thing you want is a gun that has a thumbprint reader if you needed to use it.
Yeah.
Or mud or dirt, which for soldiers and things could be an issue on a gun that reads your thumb.
Because we all know how well thumbprint readers work on laptops.
If you have a laptop with a thumbprint reader, you'll probably have noticed it can take a couple wipes. Actually, if you have a job where you clock in with a thumbprint reader, they can be sometimes finicky. They work perfectly, sometimes they're very finicky or fickle.
Yeah, and again, that can come down to just wear and tear normal. But again, on a gun, wear and tear is fixed by I'm going to clean it and oil it and put it back together.
Yes, which is another thing that one of these articles brings up, is that a lot of the things you would do to clean a gun, such as oil it, are the exact kind of things you want to avoid doing to sensitive electronics at all times.
So basically how this works, and the one that this article is focusing on, is a gun that you have a watch, and it's linked, I guess, by some sort of Bluetooth signal.
No, it's an RFID chip.
Oh, it's an RFID,
chip.
That's right.
Radio
that's
frequency,
right. Yeah, it's an RFID. So the gun is powered by 2 AAA batteries.
Something about
Which
that, by the way, to me is not
bizarre.
a problem, but hilarious.
It's hysterical. And then the watch is powered by a regular like watch battery.
Which that part makes sense.
Which that makes sense. The funny thing, and again, like you said, there's additional parts to this. They said that the AAA batteries, they'll last for about, what was it, 10,000 rounds or something like that? 5,000 shots. I've had enough experience with things where I forget that I've left it on, because I'm assuming you have to turn this on, right? It's just not on all the time.
It wasn't perfectly clear.
It's not clear.
I assume it might be like a remote control, where, but remember, I think they can die regardless of it being turned on. They're going to be, once they're in the slot, they can still run out, and also you also just don't want to leave batteries in something too long anyway.
Yeah, because they might corrode, especially.
It does add a step to the gun in the sense of you might actually have to check your gun every once in a while whether or not you're using it to make sure your batteries are okay. Now, on one hand, I get that that's a negative, especially in terms of if you forget to check if you bought this gun for home defense, that's bad. On the other hand, as he argues, because I'm sure you'll bring this up, the price of the gun is absurd. When the guy who's arguing for it and who's making it talks about it, he says, if you're really very concerned about safety to the degree that you want this in your gun, the price, and I think with it, the need to make sure your batteries are changed and stuff, could fall under something that you would consider not a mitigating factor for you. It's something you think is worth it.
And that's that. But it's really interesting to me how people on both sides, people who are generally pro-gun, are coming out against this and saying, no, it's going to lead to more regulation. Because it's funny, like in the state of New Jersey, one of the things they mentioned in the article is that once smart guns are commercially available from a manufacturer, and don't quote me on the law, but basically every gun store in New Jersey, based on some factor of, them being widely available in some fashion or another, all gun stores in New Jersey can only carry smart guns. That's already on the books in Jersey. So that's kind of an interesting thing. So they're railing against that, saying if you can only buy smart guns, here's the thought. If I'm defending my house with a non-smart gun, am I going to get in trouble for that? Because it's not actually regular, it's not really regular.
Well, the question is whether or not it's available from a gun store and whether you can have it. Those can be two different questions.
Well, those can be two different things. Yeah. But see, it's going to lead down to that argument, I think, because...
Well, but it's still, and it is a very... I understand not only that argument, but the argument that these smart guns can be regulated in ways that may make people uncomfortable, especially
because of the RFID
biometric
chip.
Ones much less so. But yeah, ones with an RFID chip. We live in a world where people are very worried about RFID chips in a lot of ways anyway, and they're showing up in everything. A good example would be, and I'll see if I can find the source for this and link to it, but for a while they have those speed passes you can get. I think Exxon makes them. Swipe it at a gas station. It'll pay for your gas automatically. You connect your credit card to it. You may have seen them. I'm pretty sure you can still get them from Exxon. And a group of people at I think MIT, a group of students built a system they could keep in a backpack that would let them hack one of those without plugging into it or anything. They just need to be near someone using one. And they could hack it in basically the time it takes you to use yours to buy your gas, and then they could spoof its signal and buy gas on your card. Now, they did this as part of a research project. But if you can do that with one of those, consider that's a group of MIT students. If you have these attached to guns, you're going to have groups, either government groups or criminal groups, focusing on ways where they can either get these guns to unlock themselves so they could, say, sell stolen guns with this technology in them and still have them work, or they could get them to lock. Thus, if you're attacked by, a criminal with, obviously initially it would probably be unlikely the average criminal would have this, but as technology becomes more available and things break down,
like an EMP device,
you get a criminal that has an EMP device, or even more specifically one that just targets these RFID chips in guns and shuts your gun off. So when you go to defend yourself, your gun doesn't work. Or again, in terms of this whole defending yourself against the government, hard to believe that the government or police forces would not develop and have the technology to shut off smart guns in their area.
That's the thing,
if all guns were smart guns, if you're a government, all your citizens' guns have a chip that turns them on and off, you're going to want a way to turn those guns off.
Yeah, no, because let's say that local law enforcement, there's, you're conducting a sting operation at an apartment complex. And let's just say, hypothetically, all guns get replaced with smart guns. You're going to shut down in that whole block. You're going to shut down all of the guns.
Which the other scary thing about that is, especially for regular law enforcement and sting operations, thus your average criminal will not be using smart guns. They will continue to, market in now probably a growing illegal trade of non-smart guns.
Yeah.
Because that's what they're going to want.
Yeah, they're going to want guns that can't be turned off.
And so, honestly, are a whole lot of citizens.
Yeah, no, there's going to be a ton of people who...
Yeah, I'm not arguing against safety technology. I understand the argument against it in terms of people fearing regulation. Regulation is a scary thing and does happen. On the other hand, For some people, I think it's great that they're available, because if all you want a gun for is basic home defense, and you're not worried about that kind of thing, your average home burglar turning your chip off, but you don't want your kids to be able to shoot your gun,
yeah, that's
then this
exactly
could be
my
a
thought.
great thing for you.
See, here's my thought. Like, okay, so you have this gun, and the AA batteries or the AAA batteries are actually what tripped me up on this, because I'd be very into this. Let's say that I could put this on some sort of stand where it was charging all the time, right? Sure. And so it was based on like a battery pack.
Which I feel like might be actually, they might just not be at that point with this particular gun yet, because there's, again, not a whole lot of guns of this type on the market. I agree. But this whole article focuses on one particular gun of this type.
So I've got this gun that's right here, and I'm always wearing my little watch, right?
Right.
And I don't take it off. I have it, and I keep it far enough away from me so that when, I can just keep my gun in the open because it won't fire.
Right.
Obviously I'm not going to have it, with a bullet in the chamber or anything like that, because that's just dumb. But I can keep it in the open in a high spot that I can reach easily. But at the same time, if my kids get to it, then they're not going to be able to fire it. Because I think it's it's 10 centimeters is what it is.
I think it's 10 inches.
Is it 10 inches away from the watch? Mm-hmm. So if you're 10 inches away from the watch, you can fire it. But if you're further than that, then you can't fire it.
Right. Because for those of you who didn't catch this or haven't read the article, it is the watch's proximity to the gun is what activates the gun.
Yeah. And so I've got it out in the open. If someone breaks in, my watch is on, and it's basically on an 8-hour cycle. So if I'm not at home, I don't have it cycled. But I would then, when I go to sleep, I turn it on, because that's generally when burglaries are going to happen. Mm-hmm. When I'm home, I turn it on and cycle it, put the pin in. It's all good to go, because that's how it works. It works on a pin technology. It's every 8 hours it turns off so that you can't just, have it on all the time.
Right. And I assume you can probably just switch it off with the watch.
I'm sure you can. Yeah. I'm sure you can, but that's the thing. And then I would come home, and I don't have to worry. My gun can be wherever I want it to be, and I don't have to worry about anybody getting into it and hurting themselves with it. I mean, again, somebody can pick it up and cold cock you with
positive
it.
Aspects.
But it has very positive aspects. And I really like it.
And again, I get why people are afraid of it on the pro-gun side because of that worry about further regulation. On the other hand, I think, and they also mentioned litigation as a possible thing, where if one of your guns has smart gun technology and another doesn't, and someone hurts themselves with one that doesn't have smart gun technology, there's possible litigation. That's talked about a lot here too. But I think there is still a huge argument to be made for fighting this technology as little as possible, only because the more it can come out, the more it can be developed. The more it sells, the more they work on it, the more it can be developed. The more fail-safes we can get, the better it can get so it will fail less. And the more we can get to a point where you could have these guns with so-called smart safety features. I would hate to see all guns need to have them. But it would be great for some gun owners. That is something that would be useful.
Exactly.
Especially if it can come down in price. Because right now it's about...
It's cost prohibitive. It's about $1,700 a gun.
Right.
And that's for a 22 caliber handgun.
And a regular handgun is $600 or less.
Look, a 22 caliber handgun is about $150 to $200.
Yeah,
a 22
depending
caliber.
on where you're getting it, yeah.
If I'm going to the local gun store, it's about $200.
Right.
And that's at the most.
And
for
so
22.
That's an interesting thing to consider. But the only way to do things like get those costs down and stuff is to fight for the technology. And I think this brings up another scary point that we don't unfortunately have time to get into. Technology itself can often be incredibly useful, but government involvement and regulation in it can make even technology that would otherwise be genius, possibly life-saving, numerous other things, terrifying.
Yeah.
And that's the government's fault. That's not the technology's fault. That's not the gun manufacturer's fault, because numerous gun manufacturers are mentioned in this article as having either looked into or developed this kind of thing, including Mossberg, Smith & Wesson, have all looked into it.
Yeah, which are pretty ubiquitous gun makers.
But yet it's the government involvement, again, that makes it terrifying, which again, then when the government gets on, and people don't want these smart guns because they're just gun nuts. No, people don't want these smart guns because they're afraid of the government. It's the same reason that a lot of people want guns in general. Not all people, not even close to all gun owners, but a lot of them is because they're terrified of the government and government regulation. It comes back to that whole militia thing.
Yeah. Again, even if you have the smart guns, the technology leads to a bunch of things that we don't have to worry about right now. Again, like you said, there's a whole can of worms that we're going to open going down this technology road. You're still going to have the same 4 things that guns are for.
Yeah.
Sustenance, self-defense, militia, and sport.
Yeah. And again, we're talking the 4 reasonable things.
Obviously, the 4 reasonable things.
You could say crime is a thing, but that's not, we're talking good people.
We're talking about, just general people who have no malicious intent upon their fellow human being.
But that's what makes this really interesting, is when you get to that point, because a lot of school shooters and such stole their gun, either from a parent, from a friend,
And
whatever,
that's what John what's his face did.
Yeah, he was gonna. Well, he didn't steal them. Remember, he mentioned he was going to steal them. He never got around to stealing the guns.
Yeah, he was going to. I mean, that's what he was going to do.
And but you have that as a thing, and unfortunately, this whole government regulation issue puts us in a place. And I'm not saying guns are the problem for school shootings. Again, clearly, the whole point of bringing that up earlier is that there's deeper issues. But to help us get to these people with deeper issues, you have to get to them before they do something crazy. One way to get to them before they do something crazy, as is mentioned with things like the smart gun technology. Somebody steals a gun and goes to kill themselves and they can't use it. If they steal it to kill themselves, which is a thing people do.
Yeah.
Unfortunately in high numbers. If someone does that and they can't use the gun because of a biometric reader, that's going to give time where maybe someone will catch them. Maybe they'll get therapy. Maybe things will be okay. If you steal a gun and you can't use it to do the school shooting, if the shooting fails on that point, lives could be saved, including possibly that of not only to the victims, but the shooter. You might be able to address those things better, but this horrifying fear in government regulation, which is the fault of the government and the people, but especially really the government for giving people reason to fear them, by giving you this idea that you might take away the guns that are currently, in a very large and very real sense, fantasies of America aside, the thing you can use to fight the government. If the government didn't create that fear so much for people, then people might not fight that fear so hard. And if that happened, then things like these smart technologies might be able to be developed better and more often, thus preventing the very problems everybody really on both sides doesn't want to happen.
And here's the thing too, just to add on to that, I know that's a really good place to end, but
please,
John Ledoux, going back to the beginning.
Yeah.
Going back to the beginning. The reason why he didn't, there were two reasons why he didn't. One, he couldn't get a gun because he couldn't steal one.
Yeah.
He couldn't steal one. I mean, obviously, his parents or whatnot may not have had guns for him to easily steal.
Sure.
But regardless of that fact, he couldn't steal one. That was a limiting factor.
Yeah.
And two, so that means that guns aren't quite as, for the average teenager, you may not be able to get to them. But then you also have the fact that, again, going back to Columbine and emulating them, he wanted to take out his plan on the Columbine anniversary, which when he did it actually fell on Easter Sunday, so there's no one at school.
Right.
So there are limiting factors. So that goes back to, it points to one common denominator in this entire gun issue. The gun is not the problem, it's the people using the guns.
It's the person holding the gun.
Because
there's a lot of argument to be made about keeping the gun out of the wrong hands.
And I'm all for keeping the gun out of the wrong hands.
Right, but you have to be keeping the gun out of the wrong hands. You have to be careful with that, because if you end up trying to keep things out of the hands of people who have a right to them, it's a difficult, and it's a philosophical discussion, it's an ethical discussion, it's a political discussion, it's on all facets. But the discussion of at what point protecting people becomes a rights-infringing thing. There is always a line somewhere where it's okay, and there's a line where you've stepped too far. Danger exists because of rights. But that doesn't mean you can take rights away. And I'm not just talking guns, I'm talking anything, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, exactly.
And so that becomes the sort of horrible hot button center of this that I don't think, not only do we not have time to address this episode, I don't even know if we really conceivably could.
I don't think there's any way we could. I mean, we could have another 5 or 6 episodes just based on this one discussion.
Rights.
Discussing rights and just even gun rights, really, for that matter.
Yeah, any right, because rights are a complicated thing. But the infringement upon rights is bad. The abuse of rights, which is really what it is if somebody, kills someone with a gun, you're abusing a right, is bad. But at what point does preventing abuse become infringement or become too much infringement? It would seem teary speeches, media sensationalism of shootings, and over-emotionalism easily make it seem like all infringement is okay because this must be stopped. But if you stop and take the emotionalism out and look at it level-headed, that's not an argument. You're not arguing based on facts or reality. You're arguing based on sentimentalism.
There's the ethos, the pathos, and the logos.
Yeah.
And you're using one of those things,
yeah.
but it ain't the logos.
Which is always a problem. And the horrible thing is, if you're not careful with sentimentalism, it can create more problems because the backlash of people who have been infringed upon can be ugly, in the same sense that it's a threshold. It's a different threshold of violence, but it is still a threshold. There's the threshold of what people will do to prevent their rights being taken away. The more rights you take, the more extreme the measures they may go to keep those rights.
Yeah.
And that's why you throw boxes of tea in the ocean.
Dressed up as an Indian.
Hey guys, it's Patrick from All Downhill, reminding you to check us out on iTunes and give us a rating if you get the chance, because it really helps us get the word out and it lets us know how we're doing. While you're at it, be sure to hit up our website, alternative-internet.com/alldownhill, to find out how you can get some sick All Downhill stickers for free, gratis, no charge. It's our way of saying thanks for being cool enough to want to slap our logo on something. And now, back to the show.
You've got your malt from UDF, which is, admittedly, while it tastes chocolatey, it is not chocolate at all. It's just malty.
But if it's a chocolate malt, what's a chocolate malt then?
It's just malt.
No, you can get a vanilla malt.
Yeah, but like if you look at it versus the chocolate ice cream cone, it may taste a little chocolatey, but it looks more like that vanilla cone.
Okay, that's
than that chocolate cone.
If you get like a vanilla malt, you mean?
No, a chocolate malt.
No, a chocolate malt is chocolate.
Or even a chocolate frosty. No, have you gotten them at the same time?
No, why would I ever get chocolate ice cream if there's chocolate malts? If you're going by
I would always get chocolate malts.
I'm just thinking once I drink it, a chocolate malt is chocolate. It's just also malt. I'm thinking a vanilla malt, I'm
talking about the visual spectrum.
Oh, the visual spectrum. Okay, I'm thinking you're talking about the flavor profile. I'm thinking a vanilla malt actually tastes kind of chocolatey because of the malt.
Because of the malt, yeah. No, but I'm just saying like the visual look of it. Like if you've seen them together. No, I think I may have misspoke there. But yeah, no. If you just look at them, like the chocolate malt looks more like the vanilla ice cream cone.
Okay.
Than the chocolate cone.
That's racist.
That is racist. Mulattoes, man. Although I do like malts better than I do ice cream cones, I think.
Doesn't everybody?
No. I don't think any. I think we're probably in the minority there. We're the vocal minority.
I think it's because people haven't had enough. I don't think enough people have actually had malts.
See, I think that's what it is. UDF sells malts, but where else sells malts? McDonald's doesn't sell malts. They serve cones.
Steak and Shake does, but nobody ever orders them.
They serve malts, but they're all about it's not steak and malt. It's steak and shake.
Steak and Shake. You go in because even if you, for pity's sakes, very few people get regular shakes at Steak and Shake. You're going in there and you're like, okay, what's the cool special shakes? That they have
you get
now?
the special shake. The
if you
Red
go to
Velvet
Dairy
shake,
Queen, you're getting a Blizzard.
Great.
You're not getting a shake anyway.
Or the birthday cake shake, which is my favorite one, I think.
You're weird, man.
I like it. But, no, chocolate malts, though. I like chocolate malts better than chocolate ice cream. But no one serves chocolate malts other than, like, UDF. And you go there, what do people get? They get, I'm going to get the specialty ice cream cone. No one gets malts. I think even at UDF, which is bizarre.
I always get malt at UDF.
I know, I do. If I go to UDF, I get the malt.
I don't know if I've had anything else. I don't know if I've ever actually gotten ice cream at UDF.
I have. I got when they were doing their 75th anniversary, they were doing 75-cent scoops. So I got like 8 scoops. It was their happy birthday specialty scoop. It was birthday cake ice cream with mixed together with cookies and cream and chocolate chip cookie dough. And there was one other thing in it, and I don't remember what it was. But just those 3 things together are brilliant.
I don't know what I'm still not. I don't get the birthday cake ice cream thing.
It's just like this. It's like the rich buttercreamy taste. I don't know what it is. It's
okay.
I mean, it's not for everybody. I like it. It's really rich.
I'm a cookies and cream. I dig chocolate chip cookie dough. I dig, but birthday cake has always been. I think it's a bit too rich. I think that might. I think
that's probably what. I mean, I don't like it all the time. Cookies and cream is my favorite ice cream.
Okay.
But I do like a good, Mayfield. Mayfield had the best birthday cake ice cream. That was really good. And then the UDF, when they had that, it was like, oh my God, 3 of my favorite flavors all in one. I'm having 8 scoops of it, please. Because it's 75 cents a scoop.
That's fair. I will have a pint. Just scoop until it's a pint.
I was so disappointed when they didn't sell that in pints anywhere, even for like the year as a limited flavor.
Oh, you know they wouldn't do that. That was how they get you to come into the UDF.
To buy fucking gas and get ice cream while you go in to get gas. That's the only reason I go to UDF is when I go to get gas.
Yeah, no. I go to
I
just go to get malts.
You go to get malts and then you're like, oh God, I need gas.
Gas next door to a UDF and gone. Well, I'll just walk over and get a malt now. I know they have their own gas station. I guess I could have gone there, but, whatever. No. I'm indifferent about where I get my gas. In the end, it's just I look at all the signs and I go, are any of these signs cheaper than other signs? The answer I've noticed recently is no. They're all getting progressively more and more horrible. Again.
They did.
And then they got low, and now they're going back up. Didn't they already do this a couple years ago?
Yeah, they did.
It's because it's winter, isn't it?
Yeah.
I hate it.
The race is not over. until the final furlong.
You've been listening to All Downhill. For more information about the topics covered in this episode, including sources and show notes, visit alternative-internet.com/alldownhill. Visit us on Facebook, facebook.com/alldownhillshow, and on Twitter @alldownhillshow. And be sure to rate us on iTunes. The music used in this episode was Footage by Chump Change and featuring Deserve. Check out the show notes for more information. As always, thanks for listening.